should I just give up on Break and save for 4.0? You know, that's a great question. Firefly, help me out here. Oh.
Sam in position.
You know, maybe it's time for Break to just put the fries in the bag.
Don't worry. Even if this is doomed to fade at dawn, I won't fear waking up from this dream. Go. Take back the right to Trailblaze. For them and for me.
Let's go gambling! I can't stop winning! Aw, dang it! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning!
And now for the final touch.
Fight to live!
This is double speed.
This big diamond, it's all yours! Time to twirl!
You won't get away.
Okay, enough with the bit. As for the initial question, should they give up on Break, aka should they skip or not, honestly it depends. For me, I didn't, but I think for both yes and no, both have pretty solid cases. And it's because this answer isn't set in stone that it brings about an interesting discussion about saving or giving up on units. If you like a character and you've already invested into a team, why does it ever feel correct to abandon them? And is it ever correct to invest in the past? Is it even worth to save a character if they only become a tier 0.5 unit? So let's talk about why players start thinking about abandoning teams and see whether or not you should save your teams. If you disagree with any of my points or have your own theories, just let me know in the comments. Also, math stuff is later in the video. But to start us off, let's go back to the first case and see what the top comment there was. Now, we're just gonna focus on the last part, cause in no way will investing in Break be better than investing in a version 4 team. Generally speaking, newer units are stronger than older units, being able to do more with less investment. So while you could save your Break team, it likely would be better to just wait for the 4.0 units. Now, rewording this, the logic becomes something like this. I should skip as future units would likely be stronger and or more efficient, thus giving up on my current team. Logically, it sounds pretty solid. You don't have infinite pulls and can't just invest willy-nilly, so you may as well invest into the future as opposed to something that may be power crept soon. But then that begs the question, should I just not pull characters or give up on the past because there'll be future ones who are just better? Now there's a bunch of ways you can answer the question, but for me I'd like to use an analogy. Imagine you're with your loving girlfriend, but then after a couple of months you start thinking, you know, there'll probably be a better one eventually, so I might as well just not invest into this one and plan for the next girlfriend. In one reality, perhaps this was the best move, as messed up as it sounds. You saved yourself time, effort, and money for someone who fit you better. But in another universe, going all in and doing everything for your partner could have been the best decision you've ever made. Now, depending on who you are or your current situation, either answer can be correct. For example, me going all in on Break in 2.7 with Fugue and 3.8 with Dahlia has gone really well for me. I put in a lot of work back in 2.7 and because of that, I was able to comfortably get through most of 3.x, which was extremely unfriendly towards Break. And after waiting, I was rewarded with Dahlia, who now just makes the team OP. At the same time, giving up on Genuine low-key saved my whole account. Now, Genuine back in the day could run the best supports and still struggle to clear. So when Sunday was released, the guy who fixes his core flaws, I was already checked out at that point. So I cut my losses and invested into Fugue instead of Sunday, which paid off. So that leads into this question. Why did one deserve investment and the other one didn't? That's what the video is about, right? Well, I'd say it's because that one team showed that additional investment would scale pretty well, while the other team needed the same investment to just stay afloat. Now, to actually determine this, you first compare the team's performance to the current standard or meta. Then, depending on how far they are, it would be a pretty good indicator if that team can be saved or not. Low key, you kind of just eyeball this, but if you want the specifics, you can compare just the damage per action value and go from there. That said though, I know for those who love Jinyuan, they will make it work, just like what I did for Break. That's why I'm saying it just depends. Moving on though, the prior section was a lot of reasoning and not hard proof. So now let's look at how some past teams have actually aged, and whether certain teams really were worth giving up on. To do this, I used Asagi's calculator, which gives us a decent reference point. Here, we can simply put in the different teams and see how much each improvement actually added to the team. Now, this is not the holy grail, but a reference, okay? Now, on the screen, I firstly want to show our baseline, Anaxa, as a reference for a current top tier version 3 DPS. I believe currently, at just 4 costs, you can have a decent attempt at the endgame modes, with 8 costs likely clearing in 0 to 2 cycles. Now, moving on though, let's see how 3 meta version 2 DPSs plus Kafka are faring. Firstly, let's look at Feixiao and Acheron, with each only getting a minor upgrade in version 3. As you can see, picking up a Cypher and going from green to red was a minor upgrade in both cases. But with said upgrades, an 8 cost version 1 and 2 DPS is now performing similarly to a 4 cost version 3 DPS. From this, we can say that Cypher, while an upgrade, she doesn't really carry these teams. As such, if people opted to skip her for other units, I definitely find it understandable. Now, when we get to the 14 costs, as you can see, the numbers are kind of iffy, which is why I'm saying to just use them as a reference. By the way, don't mind Trivi, she's just kind of OP. Regardless, we can conclude that some high cost version 2 DPSs lag quite a bit behind version 3s, but they are still more than strong enough to take the endgame modes. So if you did decide to invest in them, I'd say you wouldn't be regretting it. However, for the next pair, these two got meta-defining supports and or Nova Flares, which led to a completely different outcome. Now, looking at pre-buff Kafka, we could see that, damn, she was really bad. So with her Nova Flare basically doubling her damage, and then high ceilings doubling that damage, all of a sudden, we're a top tier team and comparable with Anaxa. Now, with Firefly, we can see that Dahlia's introduction skyrocketed their damage above both Anaxa and Kafka, to where Break is now a meta team. But I hear you saying, hey, this guy is biased, it's clearly sustainless. Yeah, but it's my video. Okay, but seriously, here are the sustain results. Still higher than Anaxa. Moving on though, I'd say that all these different teams, whether version 2 or 3 DPSs, with the right investment will be usable. Unless Hoyo decides to power creep the hell out of 4.x, I'd say our current DPSs will be in a pretty similar spot to the ones in version 2, where if you invested into them like 8 cost or up, you'll be chilling for quite a while, but lower cost teams are definitely gonna get cooked. As such, I'd say vertically investing generally is pretty smart. So with these two pairs, you can see how just one unit or buff can completely change how good a team is. However, it is a bit RNG, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Sometimes you get the Firefly treatment, and other times we get the Acheron one. Now, before I conclude this part, I just want to add this.
Scoreboard! Scoreboard! Oh, what happened to your friend? Hey, I know that guy. I killed him. He cried like a bitch.
Finally, there's only one outlier in all of this, Castrus. That team is just legit OP. Their damage, sustain, utility, legit everything is OP. Castrus literally scales with enemy inflation because they want stronger and faster enemies to lose more HP. There's just no stopping that team. So I'd say as long as Hoyo doesn't balance around this team, the game's gonna be a-okay. Moving on though, something we can derive from the previous part is that we're completely at the whim of Hoyo. After the announcement of Nova Flares and just new units in general, legit any team can be saved if Hoyo wants, and any team can get shafted if Hoyo doesn't help it. The issue is that it's kind of RNG and you can't really predict it. It's not too much better than the stock market. You can have diamond hands and hold, but it just never reaches the moon. Like if Hoyo really wanted, they could make Hook the best DPS in the game, but that's a lot of speculation. And that leads to my next point. Sometimes you don't choose to give up on a team, rather Hoyo does, and you can't do anything but watch as your team falls behind. if Hoyo doesn't revisit an archetype, there's not much we can do to change it. For Star Rail, it was Dot and Break, where it took literally an entire year for either of them to get any love. Dot in particular was just cooked for a year because literally right after Black Swan's release, we got Firefly and Acheron, who raised the damage bar by a lot. But now, as you can see, those two teams are doing really well meta-wise. Now, to be fair, it's not completely random on how these new supports get released. While Star Rail certainly has their favorites, generally, we're buffing or revisiting a different archetype after solidifying a new playstyle. For example, during 2.x, we cycled from Dot, Break, and then Follow-Up. In 3.x, we filled up Castrus's team and then some other DPSs. Now, while doing so, we sprinkled in a bit of Follow-Up, Dot, and now finally Break. Well, this in itself is fine. A problem that arises is that because there are more team types in the pool, not to mention Elation coming up, it's going to take longer for them to revisit the team that you want. So even if Hoyo plans to help a team out like Mighty or Yuniquely, I bet it's going to take quite some time until they get something dedicated for them. Of course, there's always universal stuff like Tribi, but we can see how impactful dedicated supports like the Dahlia or Hyacinth can do for a team. And I think this idea further reinforces the point that ideally, you do invest in a team instead of just instantly giving up on it. With everything I've covered in the video, you can see how just adding a few more costs on a team can greatly improve a team's longevity, which in turn makes the waiting period for future supports much less painful. More importantly though, vertical investment is one of the few ways you can actually fight against RNG and power creep. You can't control when Hoyo decides to support your archetype, but you can control how strong your team is in the meantime. If you keep jumping to a new 4-cost team every few versions, you're just going to be stuck in an eternal rat race. You can keep up with power creep for a while, but because of the low investment, you're going to need to give up on the current team and just be back at square one. Is this a valid way to play? Absolutely. If you like pulling for many characters, go for it. It can work out. Just know this playstyle relies a lot on luck, on whether or not the units you pull happen to stay relevant or get support. On the other hand, if you invest deeper into teams, yes, you got much less options, but those options generally will carry you. Again, either approach can work, it just really depends. Though I'm personally on team vertical investment. And that's the video. I'm curious on how y'all feel about the topic because again, I think both sides of the aisle can be right. Though I'll just say, if you really love your character and if you really wanted, you would. That said, guys, after doing the 3.8 quest, Firefly deserves the world. Hell, I even bought the outfit even though I believe the original is better in my opinion. But I just loved how they tied the outfit with the story. Like, it finally makes sense why she's in a school uniform. And it's because that's how she imagined herself as a normal girl going to school. It's so good. They definitely should have released this outfit in 3.8 and not 3.4, but oh well. And yeah, I hope this video was pretty interesting and a fun watch. Have a happy New Year's everyone, and peace.